dating profile is everything because that's all they have to go off. And so you don't want to be putting like silly answers about like, oh, I don't like pineapple on pizza. Have you ever decided to date someone whether they put pineapple on their pizza or whether they like dogs or cats? Like, it's a waste of space.
Hello and welcome to Peas in a Pod. Now, this is Primark's own show where we talk all things wellness, relationships, everything. And today, I've got the queen of relationships, Michelle Elman. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Babes, your list of achievements on this card, I'm blown away. We've got author, life coach, podcaster, public speaker, advocate in promoting body positivity and self-love. And you've written a book. You've not even written one book, you've written loads of books. Written books including Am I Ugly?, The Joy of Being Selfish, and How to Say No.
Yeah.
Well done to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how quickly life goes by, but a lot of time's come by. So I didn't do it in like a year, don't worry.
Yeah, but like you've been doing this 10 years.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
I mean, I just love talking about anything that improves people's lives. I think I went through such a like tough childhood when I was younger that I'm always like, make the most of the time you have, because you don't always get promised the 90 years that everyone thinks.
Right, so as the queen of boundaries,
yeah,
describe yourself in 3 words.
I would say honest is probably the first one, sometimes to a fault.
Yes.
I actually think I'm quite fun, and I think that the word boundaries and fun don't usually go together, but if you have really good boundaries and you simplify your life because you are so direct, it means you have so much more energy to be fun and lighthearted. And I always say I'm like childlike, not childish.
That is a very good way of putting it.
Yeah, some people would disagree there.
No, I like that's such a good like phrase as well, like saying if you are honest.
Yeah.
It just simplifies you like the boundaries.
Yeah. And the final word I would say is empathetic, because I do think you have to have empathy in this life. I mean, I guess it's why I'm a life coach, is that I do think if everyone focused on their own stuff a lot more and stopped minding other people's business, everyone's life would become simpler. We'd all have better boundaries. But also we'd be more empathetic to the people around us, because we'd remember a time in our lives where we were like, oh, I was going through that too. Here's how I would want to be treated. Here's what I wish someone said to me.
Yeah. Tell us what the Queen of Boundaries strives for and how one can work on setting boundaries.
So boundaries are how we teach people to treat us. So it's literally the rule book on what is and isn't acceptable, and you get to decide the rules. But this is a problem. If you don't have self-esteem, you won't decide those rules in an accurate way. You'll think everyone can just walk all over you, treat you how they want, but it's up to you to decide what you deserve and that you deserve to be treated better. So having self-esteem is a really key part to actually also believing that you deserve to set boundaries in the first place.
I love this. I feel like boundary setting is so, like it is being rewritten like more. Do you feel like it's more of like it's only just happened this year, or it's slowly we're making progress?
I feel like the word is in the mainstream, but I still think we lack the education around it. So everyone's like, boundary this, boundary that, but half the time people are like, that's my boundary, you've hurt my feelings. And it's like, that's not the boundary. You have to set the boundary around the behaviour.
Yeah.
So the boundaries are about you and what you want in your life, but you can't set a boundary around you can't hurt my feelings, because that's subjective.
Yeah.
You can say, don't yell, don't raise your voice, and if you continue to speak to me that way, I'm going to leave the room and you can come find me when you're ready to talk to me with more respect.
Oh, this is amazing. But remind us of the 5 love languages and what best describes yourself.
Okay, so my issue with the love languages is that it sends this illusion that you should only fulfill one. So there are all kinds. So there's quality time, there's, God, I'm not going to remember any of them.
There's gift giving, there's physical touch.
Yeah.
There's words of affirmation.
Wow. Them. But the problem is, it's this illusion that a relationship can exist without any of them. Can you imagine having a relationship without any quality time? Or can you imagine having a relationship without any affection?
Yeah.
It doesn't work. You need all of them to be satisfied. Yes, there are 1 or 2 that are more important to you, but the likelihood is the ones that are most important to you are usually the ones that are most neglected. So when you're in different relationships, your love languages can change depending on what's the one that's not being given enough attention. But it's not the fact that like you can just fulfill one and ignore the other 4. It's the fact that these are multiple different ways of satisfying love and to demonstrate love. And sometimes the way we demonstrate love isn't the way that our partner demonstrates love. And sometimes we can think we're not loved, but actually they're just really good at giving gifts, or they're really good at acts of service, but we haven't noticed that because that's not the thing we care about.
Yeah, I saw a really good TikTok the other day, and it was a girl that said, I'm in my late 20s.
Yeah.
And my partner, the way that he shows love wouldn't necessarily be what you'd see in the films or what you'd see like splashed in an advert, because it's like he scheduled time on her calendar to go through her receipts and her finances. She was like, I love that.
I saw this TikTok.
Yeah. She was like, I love that. She was like, I'm really like not the best with money and whatever I'm doing. I need to do my taxes.
Yeah.
And he is taking that in and he's then trying to help me out. And I was like, that's...
My 2 pieces of advice are: 1, make sure the person is always making you a better person. Make sure you always see the good over the bad. And if you can't do those 2 things, that's not a relationship you should be in. And that TikTok really reminds me of like, that's what it means to make someone a better person.
Yeah.
Because actually, you're always going to have a weakness. You're always going to have something you're not very good at, even if it's like doing your taxes.
Yeah.
And actually, that partner's there going like, I know you're not very good at that. Here's a helping hand. And that's how you can make each other better in a relationship.
But talk to us about your life coaching style and what your ethos is for this.
So I'm quite an honest, blunt person. I think it's the boundaries thing, but I also think it's just the easiest way to create change in your life. It doesn't help me if I go into a life coaching session and I'm trying to brush your ego and make you feel good about everything. Sometimes
It's going to change.
Nothing's going to change, and also sometimes you need the harsh truths. I don't think the truth ever needs to be brutal, but I do think that honesty is the best way to go about any sort of change, and that if you can't be real with yourself about what's going on in your life, it's that self-awareness, actually being like, okay, here's what's wrong with my life. Even if I don't want to change it, even if it's just not the thing I want to address, great, but admit that to yourself rather than pretending that you're trying to work on something you're not.
Yeah, because if you're just going to push that down, repress, you're not going anywhere.
Also, because like people throw things at me like, oh, but what if setting boundaries are too hard? And I'm like, well, then don't. Yeah, I'm not going to do anything for you.
I'm a life coach. I can't work miracles.
I'm like, well, it's too difficult. Fine, then carry on living your life. At one point in your life, you will realize that having no boundaries is harder than setting the boundary itself. And setting the boundary is hard, but living life with no boundaries is so much harder. And you just have to get to that point of realizing that yourself, and then I can help you. But until that point, I'm not going to create that change for you.
God, I want to hire you. You're brilliant. Right. Do you think the way we navigate relationships has changed in the past year?
Yes, I think I think it actually comes down to cancel culture. I think we are so quick to cancel everyone, to make mistakes, to go red flag and run. And actually, I think a lot more people need to be honest about the fact that they're screaming red flag and running because they're scared to have a difficult conversation. So I don't think you can teach good boundaries without good communication. And actually, even if you just want to end the relationship, you need to be telling that person that. And the solution isn't to run away from every hard conversation or to blame everyone else for everything they're doing wrong. Because the thing with going red flag, red flag, red flag is you're not looking inwardly at all. And actually, there are going to be people looking at you and being like, you have red flags too. I definitely have red flags.
Yeah.
But it's actually going, okay, how can we improve that? Is this a red flag to me? And we have to remember that red flag means potential of danger. Like in the literal term, if you see a red flag in the sea, it's potential of danger. It's not automatic danger. And it doesn't mean 100% danger either. Yeah. So just because someone demonstrates a red flag doesn't mean there can't be improvement. There can't be a conversation around it. There are things that should be automatic deal breakers, but there's a difference between a deal breaker and a red flag.
Because I feel like people get this mixed up, don't they? With like, I could fix them. And then there's almost someone who's just their behaviour isn't shifted.
So you set the boundary, you reinforce it when it's broken. The likelihood is if you don't set boundaries, it will be broken at least once, because we're all little children inside us going, let me just test it. Let's see if you're serious about that. But once it's broken more than once and it's a repeated behaviour, that's when you have to go, is this a person I actually want to date? Is this someone who I actually want in my life? And if it's no, that's when you communicate it. You don't ghost, because if we want good communication, then you can't ghost other people either.
Ghosting's not nice.
Ghosting's not nice, but also breaking up's really easy. Just tell the person that there's no romantic connection. The first time I broke up with someone, I texted it, and we'd only been on 3 or 4 dates, so it was acceptable to text it. But I texted it on the tube on purpose, so I didn't have any connection because I was so scared. And actually, it's such a good technique, because I think sometimes with boundaries, we're so scared to set it that if you just communicate it, put your phone on airplane mode, throw it across the room if you want, like you don't have to keep impulsively checking it and being anxious and feeding that anxiety around what they're going to say, because actually their response is on them and it's not your responsibility, and then good riddance, like you're lost.
Right, dating apps. Tell me about it. How do we get the most out of them? What are your thoughts on them?
Okay, so dating profile is everything because that's all they have to go off. And so you don't want to be putting like silly answers about like, oh, I don't like pineapple on pizza. Have you ever decided to date someone whether they put pineapple on their pizza or whether they like dogs or cats? Like, it's a waste of space.
Couldn't give them on case.
Actual things that are going to decide on the person. So like when I had dating apps, I would put things like, I'm an affectionate person because that's a deal breaker for me. Like, I am very honest, blunt. I like deep chats. Things that are actually going to repel people. So, for example, I had the words emotional intelligence in my take app. The number of people who just like weeded themselves out because they were like, emotional intelligence, what? Like, what is that? Is that like IQ? And I'm like, nah, you're not the right person. If you don't know what the word emotional intelligence is, then you're not for me. But you want things that are actually going to repel the wrong people. And oftentimes we're looking at quantity over quality. And I think that's where we go wrong. We want as many matches as possible. And I hear people going like, oh, 70 people rejected me today. I'm like, just swipe on people, let the matches come in, send the messages, but you don't need to sit there counting how many people didn't reply to you.
Oh, God. I love it. Right, what is the importance of a loving relationship in your life? Relationships.
I think it goes back to the fact that you are better people when you're surrounded by people who love you. And so whether it's romantic relationships or platonic relationships, you deserve to be surrounded by people who treat you the way you deserve to be treated. Again, boundaries. And if you don't have that, it's impossible to have self-esteem when you're surrounding yourself with people who treat you like rubbish.
Yeah, I know. It's like that thing when, you know, you've got something really excited to put in the girls group chat and then just like no one responds and you're like, okay.
There's like that quote which is like, are you depressed or are you actually just surrounded by people who treat you really badly? There's actually a swear word in there. I tell you,
keep it safe.
Yeah.
No, literally, it's horrible, isn't it, when you've got like, I don't know, something amazing going on in your life and you're like, you almost sit back and you think, the people around me aren't that great. Like they're not supporting, or it's like, you shouldn't be jealous of your friends. It should be, everyone's supporting.
One of the reasons I broke up with an ex was literally because he didn't say congratulations because I passed my driver's test. And it was because he hadn't passed his and he was like, he couldn't be happy for me. I was like, red flag.
Good for you. But if you could give me one piece of advice about relationships and everyone at home, what would it be?
When it comes to romantic relationships especially, I think my one piece of advice is take the focus off of what you look like. I think whenever we talk about dating, it's always about like, oh, my thighs are too big, all of this stuff. And actually, there is someone in the world who is going to find you attractive. Put your energy on actually being a better person to date rather than the aesthetic part of it. I think we focus so much on what we look like. You want someone to find you attractive as you are right now, and you don't need to change what you look like in order to be worthy of love.
Michelle, thank you so much for coming on Peas in a Pod. Honestly, I've loved this.
Thanks for
do this more often. So thank you so much. Thank you.